and welcome once again to The Blueprint. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Tell your friends, too. They can download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. On today's show, the federal budget is just a few hours away. To talk about this and so much more, we bring on the Member of Parliament for Calgary East, also our finance critic, Jasraj Hallan. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for having me on again.
Always a pleasure.
Always.
We've got some pretty exciting news. I think the budget is taking up a lot of airspace right now. People are speculating on what is or isn't going to be in that document, and that really lays out the blueprint for how the government wishes to proceed through the coming year. And of course, it's usually done, in the spring. The government moved it to the fall for whatever reason. What are you, as the finance critic, anticipating this budget to contain?
Well, I don't know if there's much excitement. I think there's a lot of uneasiness, and a lot of Canadians are scared to see what's in this budget as much as we are. From what we're hearing, there could be a massive deficit. Under Carney, Canada is the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. We have an unemployment crisis. Unemployment has not been this high outside of COVID in 40 years. Youth unemployment, there's an absolute crisis going on. Food prices are rising faster than they are in the US by almost 40%. And food is actually almost double the bank's target, the inflation that's on it. Homes are not being built. Home starts are going to decline, according to the government's own department. So what our leader came out and what we are asking for is that, number one, the deficit should not exceed $42 billion. That was Trudeau's target. And since we're almost 2/3 of the way into the year, that's probably already been spent. The second thing is to get rid of food taxes. As I said, the food inflation is so high in Canada. Anyone that goes to a grocery store can see what Liberal policies have done to food. So getting rid of the industrial carbon tax, getting rid of the packaging tax, which costs almost $1 billion in hidden taxes. So that's number two. That was a second requirement. Number three is end the Liberal tax, the inflation tax. So all the money printing, all of the resource blocking, all of the new home blocking, all of those things, we need to get rid of those, and that'll basically get rid of the Liberal tax that gets put onto everything.
We're going to see a bit of smoke and mirrors here in this budget, because they are separating the budget from the operational to the so-called investments. And that's just a fancy word for subsidizing something, is really what it is the fancy word for. Let's cue up Cut 1. This kind of tees up what we're about to talk about and how the government is going to try to fool Canadians in what's in the budget.
The Liberals are also changing the budget framework to separate day-to-day spending from capital investments. Operational day-to-day costs include health and social transfers and government salaries, while capital investments encompass spending on major projects, housing, clean energy, and infrastructure.
When will the budget be balanced?
At the Finance Committee, the opposition slammed the minister for budget changes that don't add up.
Debt is still debt at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how many columns you try to present in front of Canadians and try to trick them. Are you guys going to be cooking the books?
It's irresponsible for a member of parliament to use language like that.
Wow, he told you. But it's true. They are moving around numbers to try to fool Canadians. So you have kind of the senior who grew up in an era where, balancing your checkbook was pretty darn important, and most tried and strived to do that. Not all achieved it, but most, I think, strive to do that. Now, the government is trying to kind of reach those people on that level to say, hey, look, we're getting operational spending under control. But at the same time, there's all this money being thrown out to the door on projects that governments deem worthy.
Right. Look, Mark Carney tried this experiment with the UK when he advised the UK government last year to do this exact thing. It was a disaster. And it didn't work there. It didn't work anywhere else it was tried. And now he's trying the same accounting trick here in Canada. But the reason why is because they want to get rid of transparency. They want to essentially just cook the books to whatever they'd like. The PBO said this exactly, that the term capital is so broad, it could include anything that the government wants in it. Like, remember the Green Slush Fund?
Yep.
What
those
if
are
that's
investments.
Those are, so-called investments. And Will that be a part of this capital expenditure where they could just hide giving consultants and their insiders a lot of money? Just remember, it held up the House. Nothing moved from the House of Commons for how many months because of that scandal that happened. So it's scary to know that Mark Carney already failed this one experiment to the UK. Now he wants to try the same thing here. Canadians want transparency, and as I said in that clip, and that's what the parliamentary budgeting officer said, at the end of the day, the debt is still the debt. The overall number, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it expenditure, you can call it investment, you can call it whatever the government wants to trick Canadians. But debt is still debt, and that's going to be on Canadians to pay when the deficit and debt are essentially going to double under these guys.
Yep.
And so what does that mean? That means for future generations and current generations are being slammed by taxes. Future generations that are going to have to pay off all of that debt as well. So it's a scary accounting trick that they're going to try to implement here in Canada. It's not going to be good for Canadians. It's not going to be good for transparency. That's why this failed experiment needs to stop.
Another thing Mark Carney did while he was Bank of England governor is print money. Like, that's easy. Anybody can do that, right? Like, you just keep printing money. What is challenging is starting a business, taking risk, coming up with an idea to pitch to others, the general public, to want to buy. And that is getting harder and harder to do in this country, unfortunately. And it's going to impact the youth. And that's the topic we're going to touch on next. But if you want to respond to that before I get to the next.
Yeah, definitely. Look, that's why one of our asks is very clear to get rid of liberal inflation. That includes things like getting rid of all this red tape and burden that is being put on small businesses, on big corporations, on homeowners. Things like the No New Pipelines bill, the tanker ban that's Bill C-48, the oil and gas emissions cap, all of these things, and the industrial carbon tax, all these things are contributing to business that is fleeing away from Canada, investment that's fleeing away from Canada. And that's why we see jobs are not available now, especially for our youth. And that's why there's a crisis going on. The government, it's a Liberal government, has done such a great job of running away all of our investment by putting up all this red tape and roadblocks, that it makes it almost impossible for anyone that wants to invest here, and that trickles down to the small business owner. It trickles down to workers.
Absolutely. Cue up cut 2. Let's give the finance minister a chance to explain to the young people why their future is looking a little dim right now. Play cut 2.
Banque Nationale says the federal debt is going to rise from maybe $1 trillion to $3 trillion over the next 10 years. We already took on a lot of debt during COVID. I just think of the example of a girl or a boy who's 10 years old today. 10 years from now, they could be facing a tax bill hypothetically that's triple what I pay, and in effect, putting money in my pocket at the expense of youth. I mean, is this really a fair approach to future generations?
Well, what is fair is for us to present the budget in a different way this year. We're going to distinguish between spending and capital investment. People understand when you go and you pay your cell phone bill, this is spending. When you're buying a house, you're investing. What we're shifting is to say in 3 years from now, we're going to balance our operating budget with the revenues we have.
It's been said before, it's like a Jedi mind trick, right? These are not the numbers you're looking for. Like, don't worry about it. So,
that's right.
And as you said, debt is debt. Let's show up the graphic here that shows the amount Canadians paid on government interest, on the debt. This is money that just goes away, has no benefit in healthcare, in transportation, nothing. It's just wasted.
Yeah, I mean, the youth today have already made so many sacrifices because of this Liberal government. And the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is telling them to make even more sacrifices. He stood up in a room full of youth and gave them grim hope of ever being able to own a home, because dream of home ownership is dead in this country under this government, unless you have the bank of mom and dad that can help you with a down payment. In 25 years, you could pay off a mortgage, and that's how long it takes to save up for a down payment now on a house.
Yeah.
That's the reality under the Liberals. As I said, youth unemployment is one of the highest it's ever been. And it's because they've chased out almost $500 billion worth of investment. Canadian investment went to the U.S. Investment is always going to go where there's less friction, less burden, less red tape. And that's what America has become. The Canadian dream that we used to brag about when the previous Conservative government was in under Stephen Harper, there was articles that were written that said the American dream has moved to Canada. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite now. because they've made it go away, and it's the youth that has to suffer from that. It's the high grocery prices. It's never being able to leave their mom and dad's basement because they just can't afford a home or rent anymore because rents and mortgages have doubled under the Liberals. All of these things combined, and there was a stat somewhere that I think it's like if a child is born today, they're already born with $32,000 of tax over their head. And when you see this figure of $90 billion in debt interest, that you have to put it into perspective that last year and this year, there was more going to bankers and bondholders on that debt in interest payments than what goes to the provinces in healthcare transfers. And there was more that went to the debt, so the interest on it, again, to rich bankers and bondholders than what we even have in GST revenues. So,
That's incredible.
And you just talk about incompetence, and what is it all for?
Right.
And you ask any youth today, they're doing all the right things. They're trying to get work. They're working hard to get a degree. But once they graduate, there's nothing there for them, especially in their own field. So they have to leave. And so there's more. This is probably one of the first generations and future generations where the kids will be worse off than the parents. Mm-hmm. Any parent can say that they work as hard as they can so their children will be better off than they did, and that's impossible under the Liberals. And so I'm not sure what this Liberal government would be proud of to say out of all of that, you see the finance minister saying, well, we're going to change the accounting practice. That's his answer to doubling housing costs and the food inflation that's out of control, and the fact that a youth can't buy a home. They've lost a home ownership dream. That's what he's proud of. So that was his answer, is that I'm going to change the accounting practices in Canada. Like, come on.
Well, I think that's a good point. We didn't get here by accident, right? There are countries that are doing very well. Canada is lagging behind because of roadblocks put in place by the federal Liberal government. These are, what we're experiencing now is the result of those policies. We opposed pretty much all of them, and we said this is the point we're going to get to. Unfortunately, we are here, and it's regular people who are going to suffer through this.
And you know what? It's Pierre Poilievre that's going to have to reverse all that. We're going to have to get rid of the No New Pipeline Bill C-69, so resource projects get built quickly, that'll get approved quickly within 6 months to a year in this country. That'll signal to the world that Canada's open for business once again. That means mines, that means pipelines, that means any green project that needs to be built here, with consultations of Indigenous groups, with consultation with the provinces. We need to get rid of that bill so we need to build in Canada. Same thing with homes, get rid of all of the bureaucratic mess and hurdles that the municipalities have put up in front of home builders so that we can get homes built that can bring down the cost of homes. We need to control the deficit, which means capping government spending, getting rid of wasteful spending, actually being able to balance a budget. So that means taxes can come down. That means interest rates can stay low and inflation can come down. And of course, getting rid of all the things that are hidden taxes that make the price of food go up, including the industrial carbon tax and things like the food packaging tax, a plastic ban. Those things essentially will help bring the cost of food down. What this will do also is signal, like I said, to the world that we're open for business, which means we'll have more competition in the country. More competition means lower price for goods. That's always going to be good for Canadians. We pay some of the highest cell phone bills in the world, highest banking fees in the world. And now food. Food is, how are we paying more than America? We have less people here, but we just don't have enough of the people that are selling the food. Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to, grow our own food at lower costs, so less cost to our farmers, which means getting rid of the industrial carbon tax, and then making sure we have a good environment for business here so that more companies want to come to Canada and invest, which means lower price of goods.
To that end, we're talking about, you hear in the media a lot, so we're talking about standing up to Trump. Okay, so what does that mean? For the Mark Carney elbows up crowd, that seemed to be tough talk to the president. What we're talking about is making Canada as strong as possible, so we are negotiating from a strong position as we possibly can get, which means getting our energy to market, getting opportunities to sell our product. And how many world leaders have we seen come to Canada that were just, pushed away by Justin Trudeau. There's no business case. There's no this. You don't get a oil or natural gas. Let's play cut 3, and then we'll get your closing thoughts on a few things. This is our leader, Pierre Poilievre, talking about that exact same thing. Play cut 3.
He met with the Chinese president, and they made a decision that their officials were going to get together and try and solve the trade irritants. He is trying to make some progress. No, you don't see those things as a bit of progress?
What progress? Can you name one tariff line that he's reduced abroad?
No, not at this stage, no.
Not one. No. He said 7 months.
So what would
He's been on 20 trips.
What would you like to see him do then? What do you think is the missing piece here?
Keep his promise.
Yeah, but how? It's easy to say that. It's the how that's difficult.
Well, the how, I said that I would face President Trump and the rest of the world from a position of strength. Right now, we're in a position of weakness. The Americans know we can't sell our goods to anyone else because we don't have pipelines and LNG plants to get our most valuable export to other markets.
Interesting when Pierre said Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, has to keep his promise, and Rosemary Barton was like, how? Well, the question also could have been like, why make the promises if you knew it was going to be so difficult?
Right. I mean, he's the guy that said he'd have a deal with Trump by July 21st. He told Canadians during the election he's the guy that'll deal with Trump because he's got his elbows up. His elbows went missing, and he literally went begging now. He's on his knees, and he's begging President Trump, and he had to apologize to him. And that shows even more weakness. When Prime Minister Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister of this country under a Conservative government, we had a standing on the world stage that people used to envy. Our allies used to respect us. We used to be an energy superpower. We used to be able to be included in discussions when other world leaders would make decisions. And under the Liberals, that's all withered away. Canada does not have a good standing in the world. We're not respected by our allies. We don't have anything to stand on anymore. Our leader is absolutely right that without being an energy superpower, without unleashing our resources, we are bound to having the same trading partner, the main trading partner, when we should have diversified it already by now. As you had mentioned, some of our allies came here, asked for our product, and the Liberals turned them away, said we don't have any business case for them. I asked the Environment Minister, the current one, are pipelines in the national interest of the country? And she refused to even say the word pipeline, let alone admit that those are things that could help us. All of these things are to say that we could be an energy superpower. Only Pierre Poilievre he's the only leader that will not only have a backbone to stand up to other countries, but also be able to negotiate deals. Because we saw that under Prime Minister Stephen Harper. We got a softwood lumber deal within 80 to 90 days. And that was tariff-free at the time. So, and now we're outstanding for our softwood lumber deal, and the tariffs keep going up. Every time Mark Carney or if one of his ministers go anywhere, they come back and they do these press conferences and cheer for themselves. And then the same day or the next day, the tariffs go up from that country. We've seen that happen over and over again. That's why Pierre Poilievre is the only person that has the experience, as he was as a cabinet minister before, but also someone that understands that our energy here, our resources in Canada, can help us on the world stage. It'll help Canadians. And what does that end up boiling down to? A strong Canada, an affordable Canada, and our workers that are here in Canada who keep losing their jobs because of failed Liberal policies will have powerful, strong paychecks with lower taxes that'll help them buy affordable food, affordable housing in safe neighborhoods once again. And that's the only leader that understands that is Pierre Poilievre.
Jazz, the budget's coming down very soon, so I know you have to get out of here. Your staff's having a heart attack, so I want to make sure you are where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be. Let's close out the show. The guests usually get the last word, but having said that, the question or the comment that continues to flow around the Ottawa bubble, probably outside this city, nobody really is talking about it, but close it out with this. Yes or no, Christmas election or not on the budget?
You know what? Let's take a look at this budget and see which way. We can only control which way we vote. Our demands are very clear for this budget as we've laid out, as Pierre Poilievre has laid out. We want an affordable budget for an affordable Canada once again. Anyone you talk to today, Canada is not Canada anymore. Whether you immigrated here or lived here your entire life, with sky-high prices when it comes to food and housing, crime out of control, all because of failed Liberal policies. That's why Canada doesn't feel like it was once again, like it was before. And we've had our demand for the budget, which They need to cap or lower the deficit from $42 billion. We need to see food taxes gone, and we need to stop the liberal inflation tax with all the money printing. An affordable Canada, what does that look like under Pierre Poilievre? It means that your hard work will give you that affordable paycheck with low taxes on it. You'll be able to live in safe neighborhoods because we'll have stronger justice bills that will help strengthen our criminal justice system once again, unlike what we've seen under Liberals with their soft on crime policies. You'll be able to afford housing like you used to be able to, because it was half the cost. Housing was half the cost under the previous Conservative government. And of course, food prices. We will bring them down in an affordable Canada for those workers and those people that work hard by getting rid of the industrial carbon tax and food packaging tax. That's what a Canada under a Pierre Poilievre, common sense Conservative government will look like. Let's restore that promise of Canada that you work hard and you'll be able to get somewhere in this country once again.
Jasraj Hallan, thank you very much for your time. The finance critic, also the member of parliament for Calgary East. We look forward to your leadership as you go through this federal budget. Should be interesting.
Thanks,
Thank
Jamie.
you for your time, man. And thank you for yours. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Tell your friends to download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. I know we have new content every single Tuesday, but since next Tuesday is Remembrance Day, we will have it on Wednesday for you, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So until then, next Wednesday, don't forget, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.